All About Relationships is an engaging, lighthearted, and practical show designed to help people improve their relationships in meaningful ways. Hosted by Dr. Don Allen, a certified Gottman therapist, as well as an advanced trainer for the Institute. He is also certified in emotion-focused therapy. With over 40 years of experience in the field of psychotherapy, Dr. Allen is here to provide expert guidance on strengthening marriages, parent-child relationships, friendships, and more. Through insightful discussions, audience call-ins, and guest experts, viewers receive real-world strategies to enhance intimacy, communication, and overall relationship satisfaction. So now, please welcome the host of All About Relationships, Dr. Don Allen.
And hello, we're back. I'm Dr. Don Allen, and you're watching All About Relationships, working towards ideal marriage and loving, lasting relationships. Really excited about this show today. You have to understand, I usually kind of prep for these shows like the day before, and I kind of reflect on what I want to talk about. Well, as it happens, I went to the EMDR Trauma Conference in Anaheim, California. And one of the people who were speaking was talking about object relations theory, which I was trained in really big time about 30 years ago. But it dovetails so nicely into the methods that I use for couples, and some of the underpinnings for Gottman and EFT relate to things like object relations and attachment. I know that's a fancy term, and we're not going to get around all these fancy terms. This is not a college class. This is just for all of us to kind of learn how to do better. So we're going to talk about that today. What I always say is, what have I done for my relationship today? And one of the things you've done is watch my show. So way to go. The other thing is, I want you to take this show and go to your people and sit and watch it with them, because then you can stop it and start it and talk about it as you go, which are some of the very things that I teach that are fundamental for relationships to do well. Today's topic is good and bad habits when communicating with our partner. But this really is communicating with our best friend, communicating with our kids. So a lot of what you're going to notice is, what are best practices? What are the best ways that we can talk so that we gain traction, whether it be a conflict conversation or something that builds our love maps, or looking at the higher meaning of our house, what's really important to us, and how do we convey that to our partner in a way that we can connect with one another. So we're going to talk about that. Honestly, if I don't get through all my material today, I might have a part two, because this stuff is so cool. People love to hear about it. I know when I was at the conference, I want to shout out to a doctor who was giving a presentation. He's interesting, he's very knowledgeable, and he's very funny. His name's Barry Litt. And when I finish with this, I'll definitely give him a shout out to say, hey, you ought to watch my show. I talked about you. But some of the stuff that I have here are the very things that he was talking about in that program. Now, part of what I did was just kind of reactivate my memory on some of the old stuff, and I'm using it. But I have a feeling that he'll think that I listened to him pretty well also. So that's what we're going to do today. So let me kind of move some of my notes here. So we've got that going. And this thing is not moving. That's not good. So the next thing I guess I want to do is talk about hooks. And hooks are those kind of things that make us all very interested in talking and discussing things. So, when I talk about these things, I'm hoping you say, man, I want to listen to the show, because I do some of that stuff. And if you do, that's fine. Everybody does. I always say nobody's in any trouble. What we need to do is be curious. This isn't about being bad or good. It's about improving our skills. And I'll talk about that and give you some metaphors that might relate to you. Okay. So here's some of the questions I have for you. Do you ever notice that when you try to resolve an issue, you end up in an argument about something completely different? You ever do that? Okay. So that's a rehashing past issues thing that just stirs up stuff and gets us off track of what we brought up in the first place. Next question. Have you ever asked your partner for something small only to feel like suddenly you were fighting about your whole relationship? You ever done that? Okay, well, you're not alone. Trust me, this is part of why we're going to have fun today. The next one. Do you ever feel like the harder you try to get close to your partner, the more your partner pulls away from you? right? So you go and you need, or you make a bid, and all of a sudden they just shut down and they're distant from you. Or the more you pull away, the harder your partner chases you. Okay, that's something to think about. Next one I kind of have is similar to that. Have you ever assumed that you knew exactly what your partner was thinking, only to find you were not only completely wrong, but then they complain that you didn't let them finish? All right, all right. So, like I said, we're having some fun with these, right? I like this one. I actually underlined it. Do you ever notice that your partner's reactions feel oddly similar, like they remind you of how you were treated when you were a kid in some way? And all of a sudden, that feeling is right back in the room, but now you're fighting your partner about it. Okay, so interesting stuff, right? Let's see, what else do I have here, just to kind of prime the pump for us today. Um, does your partner shut down during conflicts, leaving you feeling even more alone? Ooh. And that when you brought up the problem. So here you are, you brought up a problem, you can't wait to connect and resolve it and get close, and now you feel even more distant. Ooh. So that can happen sometimes too, right? Let me give you one more and then we're going to go have some fun. Have you ever wanted to talk about something important right away? Like this is a priority, we got to talk about it. But your partner seemed to need space, and that mismatch and that competition over, no, we really have to talk about it, actually turned into a fight. So if some of these things sound eerily familiar to you, stay tuned because we're going to have fun. And towards in the third segment, I'm really going to talk about some of these styles, and I'm going to give you the antidotes for them. Okay. And then when we go to the fourth segment, I'm going to send everybody home to rewatch the show with their partner and play a little game. And I'm going to tell you what that game looks like at the very end in our fourth segment. So that's what we're doing today. That's what we're happening to look at. And by the way, if I don't get through all of these and I get enough feedback from people, I'll do a part two because I have a number of these when I put them down. It's funny because when I started writing these down, I just, oh yeah, this one. Oh yeah, that one. So it was really kind of fun to put this together. I got up this morning about, I don't know, 8 o'clock, and I took about 2 hours to write all these things down. So I hope you're having as much fun about doing this as I am, because this is a really good show. The other thing is it really has been going on forever. Remember, one of the things about my show is it should have been true 2,000 or 4,000 years ago, and it's probably going to be true 2,000 years from now. Remember, Leo Tolstoy said there's only one good family. There's a million bad ones. John and Julie Gottman say there's only one good marriage, or that special partner relationship. Okay. There's a million ways to do it wrong. We're going to talk about some of the bigger ways that people do it wrong. And I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to feel like it's all of us, a lot of kids like us, right? So we're going to have fun with that. So yeah, that's what we're going to be looking at. So a couple of things I just want to do and talk about to the good. When we get into a relationship, okay, a lot of times we have a lot of hormones that are encouraging us to mate. It's very biological, and there's a bunch of them. Okay, and I talked about that in a previous show. Well, those are going to wear off. Eventually, we kind of get into a steady state, right, with our partner. But during that limerence, everything is wonderful. So we get this false read about how everything that we had trouble with when we were kids and all of the past disappointments in big relationships are all finally cured because of this wonderful limerence feeling. Bad news is that wears off. The good news is we know what that one good relationship looks like. So if you create it, you can keep it and maintain it. But that doesn't mean you're not going to have to walk through some scary feelings from the past sometimes, maybe, right? Okay. So that's where that happens. So all of a sudden, this feeling wear off combined with the disappointments lead to old habits that don't really work real well, right? Okay. But it also can start leading to old skills. We start using what we used to use. Right. So that's unfortunate because now we're interacting with our partner and we kind of unconsciously teach them kind of maybe how we used to be treated. And then sometimes those habits not only come back negatively, but maybe they have old habits that they can't wait to jump with you on inadvertently. And here we go. Right. Okay. So, for example, one of the things that happens commonly, and I've talked to you about what really masters marriages do, what really high functioning people do, is they say what they need and they say what they feel. Right. But oftentimes, and again, every time I talk about this, and when you go back and watch the rerun of this, you two talk about this. You two talk about this. Do people in the relationship by and large say what they don't need and what they don't feel? Well, I'll tell you one thing, I'm not angry. No, I'm not angry. Um, and the other thing they might do is say, you know what, I don't like getting yelled at, that's for sure. Well, we know that they don't like getting yelled at, and we also know that they aren't angry. But the question is, what are they? Because we really need to know what people are, and we need to convey that to our partner, right? And the other thing, feelings are so important because feelings really kind of give a priority to the urgency by which we need to feel resolved or soothed, right? So one of the things I might say is, rather than say, I tell you I'm not angry, what I might say is, well, what I guess I'm feeling is I'm feeling misunderstood and alone. And I guess what I need is some reassurance that we're connected and that you like me, right? Now, that could be a problem for some people because that sounds vulnerable. And some people feel very uncomfortable sometimes about showing their vulnerability, especially in a fight, because when we're fighting somebody, we don't want to let down our guard or show weakness, right? The other problem you have is this isn't a boxing match, but what it is it's a situation where the most important person on the planet to us is feeling disconnected. So we kind of freak out, right? We kind of freak out. So what we want to do is defend ourselves because we freaked out. Or maybe worse, maybe what we do is we go back to those old habits and those old, this is probably how I'm going to be treated. And the next thing you know, we're into those bad habits that actually leave not only us more alone, but our partner more confused and feeling alone as well. Okay. Okay. So, like I said, there is good news because what works has worked forever, in my opinion. These things, they may have a different name, they may have a different bow and a ribbon, but people really get along the same way in a good way. And I tell you where I noticed this. This is how I kind of prove the truth of my theory that this has got to be true 2,000 years ago and true probably 2,000 years from now. Anytime I read a good novel, one of those classic novels about, oh, I don't know, like back in the 1800s, the one that comes to my mind is Pride and Prejudice. Those kind of movies or books. What you notice is at the end of it, the hero and the heroine usually have a high functioning relationship. Now, not all the time, but a lot of times you can see that one relationship that's really, really, really positive. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to emulate what works and we want to get rid of what doesn't work. Okay. That's really, really important. Let me think, what else do I want to talk about? So a couple other things I want to talk about is, like I said, a shout out to Barry Litt, Litt. He is a person that really talks about couples relationships and how this ineffective pattern sometimes is prevalent in relationships. He's not the only one. He just happened to be talking the other day, and I thought he was really good. So you might want to look him up, see what he does, and read some of the stuff he has to say. And I think you'll really like it. Okay. So that's important. The other thing I want to talk about with this is that, again, I like to use analogies that really work. When I talk to people who are athletic, actually, I would say athletes. I'm athletic, but I know athletes, and they're a different breed of person than I am. No trouble saying that, right? We are who we are. But I notice that when I talk to people that are really good at what they do, they work off of something called rudiments. Same way with music. You have to learn to do the same things every time really well. So it's just natural to you. And if you do that, you avoid injury. Now, from a couple's point of view, you avoid emotional injury and distancing. So I don't know that I can do this, but like if you're playing tennis, let me get my hands up here. There you go. If I go to hit a tennis ball, what I want to do is I want to come over and I want to hit the ball with my elbow like this, and I want to come right up to my ear, right like that. See? So I come up, I make a big C from up here. I'm still on the screen, good, and then I come back. But let's say I hit the ball like this. Okay, you see, here would be my hand. Where is my hand? Aha! You see my elbow right there, and my hand is where? It's right here. Okay, if I hit the ball like that, I'm going to get tennis elbow because what I've done is I've taken all of that energy from the ball and it's gone right up my arm and right into that tendon, and now I have tennis elbow. So, in other words, I don't want to hit the ball like that because what it does is it leads to an injury, right? And if you go back and you talk to most pros, and tell me if you're a pro if I'm doing it wrong, because I'd love to be corrected. But some of the stuff that was happening in the 1930s and 40s and 50s and 60s, they're still teaching that today in terms of how to hit a tennis ball, how to hit a golf shot. There's certain motions that we do not only to allow maximum efficiency with what we're trying to do, but it also avoids injuries, right? I noticed that when I used to play music. There's certain ways that you hold your hand when you hold a bow, or like I played string bass, but if you hold the bow the right way, you won't get carpal tunnel. You see, so I learned you have to hold the bow exactly that way. And if I just went over and I picked up a bow right now, my hand would go right back to how it's supposed to be because I learned it that way. The problem with what we're doing, okay, is that we're learning old habits and doing repetitive motion the wrong way. When you come back, I'm going to talk to you about some of these really interesting things, but let's take a break right now.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
All right, so hopefully you're very intrigued by this because this is a really good show for kind of what we do wrong. I guess, with my good, bad, and ugly theme, this one's probably more in the bad category. But again, we always go back to the good, which is what do we do instead? The other thing I'm going to say is just like if you learned a golf shot wrong or a tennis shot wrong or whatever, you have to relearn it. So give yourself some grace and give yourself some space on it and relax, be spontaneous. But, keep trying to do these new things over and over again because after a while, that becomes your new shot. I actually know this from tennis. I got some tennis lessons, and now my forehand is so much better. But I tell you what, it took me 6 months of hitting it before it really got to be more automatic. And even once in a while, I still hit the wrong shot. So don't be upset with yourselves, right? And like I told you, I'm athletic. I'm not an athlete. Athletes might pick it up a lot faster than me. I think that's wonderful. Doesn't mean anything about me, though. I don't have to compare myself to anybody or anything. I just have to have fun when I play tennis. And you want to be close when you're in a relationship because it's one of the most important things you'll ever do in your life, not only in terms of happiness, but physical health. You have a good, loving relationship that you feel safe in, you'll live longer and healthier. We know that from research. Okay. So let's take some questions from the mailbag. Now, again, I love this because I picked some of these that are right up the alley that we're talking about today, right? Here's the first one. Now, think about this, right? My partner always assumes the worst about me. When I make a mistake, how can I break that cycle? Well, all right. Why do we have to be perfect all the time, right? Why do we have to do it incredibly right all the time and not make mistakes, right? Okay. So what happens is we want to check, see what I write here. We need to check the assumptions, right? So help me understand what you imagined I meant is different. So when somebody says something like, wow, you're terrible because you forgot the milk, right? Help me understand what you're imagining about me because I made a mistake. Just kind of tell me where that went in your mind. But you say it in a way that's gentle and you say it in a way that's attuning, right? Aware of your partner's emotion, curiosity. Tell me what you were thinking about me when I did that, because it sounds like you really jumped to a conclusion that there's something wrong with me. I'm just really curious. What is that? Now, let's say they continue to rant. Say, what I hear is you want to kind of tell me how that bothers you. I'd love to hear what's going on with you because I care about you. So tell me why that was so hurtful to you. So now that's an invitation to love maps, and it's an invitation to turn towards. It's also attuning. I did a whole show on attuning, so you want to go back and look at that. But I'll talk more about attunement today too. All right, so that's my answer to my first question in the mailbag. Second one, I feel smothered by my spouse's constant need for closeness, but I don't want to push them away. Right? So now we have a situation where somebody's feeling like too much, too much, too much. When you see that, one of the things I do for curiosity is I wonder about that boundary attachment. Where do I begin and where does the other person begin, and how do we all kind of glom together? Well, that's okay. What we want to do is we want to create enough safe space that we both feel like individuals, but enough closeness that we both feel safe in the relationship. So that's the challenge with that. Okay. So one of the things you want to do is you want to negotiate for both closeness and independence, or autonomy is kind of the word. What happens in Gottman land, and if you notice, I'm giving the object relations answer, but I'm also giving you the Gottman answer because it goes right to that, right? So for the first one, gentle startup, right? The second one, the Gottman anchor would be accepting influence and compromise. But before we compromise, what we want to do is accept influence. Now, remember from a past show, accepting influence isn't giving in or just, yes, whatever you say, I'm going to do. It's really slowing down to say, tell me what your point of view is. I really want to hear it. And I really want to kind of weigh it to see if some of those good points I want to have, a part in too. So this is that opportunity for safety. The other thing I want to talk about is that word right now in our world has kind of been energized. When people think safe, it sounds like you're accusing me of punching you in the nose. Well, you shouldn't do that. And some people have to have a problem with that. But most of us, what safety means is I feel like I can be vulnerably intimate with you. I can talk to you about where I hurt or where I feel alone or where I feel like I need something. Whereas if I do it wrong, I feel like I've given you something to hurt me with, a stick to beat me with. We never want to feel that way with our partner. Remember what I talked about with Dan Siegel: seen, soothed, safe, secure, right? So safety here is I can bring up something with that vulnerable intimacy, and I can trust that you're going to be there for me and make me feel better. So accepting influence is such an important part of that. And then compromising is, well, how do we both win on this? How do we get this to where we're both feeling good enough that we can go back to being close and spontaneous? Okay, that's number 2. Question number 3. When my partner criticizes me, well, that's one of the 4 horsemen, right? Criticism. Criticism, for those of you who haven't been following, criticism is see what you do wrong, see what you did, see what you don't do. You never do this. It's pointing out the partner made a mistake a lot of times, right? Just kind of in a nutshell. So what we want to do is have a complaint, which is gentle, but then we want to immediately follow up with the impact, how it made us feel. So let's see what this one says. When my partner criticizes me, I either explode or I shut down. One of the two. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I do that. What do I do to stop that? Okay. Well, the first thing you just did was perfect. Okay. What you did was you looked at the cycle and you named it. It seems like this or that happens with me. And boy, I just go from 0 to 60. Wow. Okay. So we don't want to do that. Okay. Instead, what we want to do is slow down, take a breath, get back into feeling connected, grounded, and regulated, right? And then what you want to do is you want to assert a repair attempt, right? So when my partner criticizes me, what you might want to say is, well, that's a horseman. So I want you to go back and say it in a way that's more of a complaint and be gentle. Then what you want to do is take responsibility, which is, when you say it really bothered you that I did that, I got to tell you, you know what? I did do that. And I'm sorry. Sometimes I make mistakes, but what I am going to do is I'm going to try to repair it and try to make it better now. All right. So first, I'm sorry. Second, I got to do better. And third, please, when you let me know about this, I'll be more than happy to reach out to you, but do it in a more gentle way, because that criticism, it bothers me. And you know what? Sometimes it makes me so upset, I go, boom. And I don't want to do that either. So thank you when you see it to point it out for me so I can have a do-over like I'm asking you to have a do-over. You have a do-over with criticism, I'll have a do-over with getting all upregulated. Okay. But go to repair. And then the other thing too is look at my past shows on the Four Horsemen. If you don't want to do that, go to the Gottman Institute, punch in Four Horsemen, and they'll give you tons of really good information. I will say a really important part with that is the reason people break up. There's 4 factors: criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, and then the worst is contempt. Contempt is describing your partner as defective. Don't do that one. That one's especially bad. But again, if you find yourself doing any of these, we have antidotes. Immediately repair and go back to being closer. Okay. So let me kind of look here. Which one should I do? Sometimes I feel like I need to know everything about my partner's day, but it pushes them away. How can we find the balance with that? Okay, well, one of the things you automatically want to do is look at what the feelings are behind why I need to know every little detail. What's going on with me that knowing every little detail is going to help me somehow feel better, right? But anybody who's ever had that 20 questions feeling where people they're landing like airplanes, right? One of the things you got to worry about is eventually people are like, well, wait a minute. So, that starts to kind of push against their autonomy. And even if they don't mind answering those questions, it can be a dream within conflict, which is, wait a minute, why do I need to tell you everything I'm doing? So that's kind of, wait a minute, I don't think anybody should do that. So why am I doing that? Well, now you've got that conflict, because on one hand, that's pushing, but on the other hand, the other side wants to know, well, what are you holding? Well, what are you not telling me? Well, what's going on that you feel like you have to be defensive with it? Ever have that happen? All right. Or do you know people that might? It's a common thing. Every one of these I'm talking about, believe me, these are common for everybody. So they may not do this one, but they may do that one, right? Or they may do this one rarely, but they sometimes do it. So just have fun with this. This is kind of like an opportunity to be curious about how we are in our relationships. Okay. So what happens when I need to know everything? We get back to that issue of, where do I begin? Where do I end? Where does the other person begin? Where do they end? So one of the things that needs to happen is maybe the person who's being asked the questions is clarify what's meaningful to share, but also respect private place, right? Private space, whatever, right? So, hey, let me give you a recap of the day, right? And just kind of talk to you about the highlights and, some of the things, I don't have to give you everything about it. I had a salad. I don't have to tell you what salad. I don't have to tell you what the ingredients. I don't have to tell you what I picked off the salad, what salad dressing I had, right? But what we can do is we can say, yeah, I really enjoyed lunch today. I had that about noon, finally got a break, and I had a good salad, right? So, and you might want to digress and say, hey, we ought to try this restaurant or something. But again, both of you want to feel comfortable about that. And if you're not, talk about the vulnerable intimacy. Why am I feeling like I need to know every little thing? I'm really, really, really nervous. Maybe we should talk about how you can reassure me more. Okay, something like that. All right, let me look at my time. I'll go quick. I got one more, and then we're going to get into some of the really good ones on the third part. Let's see. My partner avoids conflict at all costs. I don't think I gave you this one, and it leaves me feeling alone in the relationship. This is an avoidance one, and what we can do is we can have people who pursue and people who avoid, right? Okay. So one of the things about that is we have to have these short time talks, agreed breaks, those types of things, right? In other words, I can go somewhere, but I don't need to text my wife every 5 seconds. But I tell you, it'd be nice sometimes to have a check-in for both of us. How you doing? Right? I just went to the conference in California. When I landed, in the connector flight, it was nice to say, "Hey, I just landed." Right? It's like, "Hey, was the flight good?" "Yeah." "Hey, I got to get on the plane, but I'll catch you when I get to California." Little check-ins. And what that does for your partner is say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you. You're on my mind. You're part of my consciousness with this. And I like you. I need you. And I really enjoy having you." So, all right. So this is pretty good for the mailbag. And what I think I'll do now is we'll go to another break. And then when we get back, we're going to get to different styles by which people affect their relationships. Go back to my example with tennis elbow. You want to hit the ball clean so the ball goes where you want it to and you have fun playing tennis. You don't want to get hurt playing, and you don't want to get disconnected when you're having a conversation with your partner. We'll break and I'll see you shortly.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
All right, we're back. All right, so we're going to have some fun now. We're going to talk about bad habits when communicating with our partner. This is back to if you've ever played in a sport and you're not doing the things you're supposed to do, how it affects your game. I played high school tennis, and my coach always yelled at me because I never bent my knees. And he always said, you look like a tree out there. Come on, Don, bend your knees. And he was right. That was affecting my shot. So what I want to do is learn how to get lower with those shots so that I'm able to hit them the way my coach really wanted me to. So these are some of the same kind of things, only they involve relationships. Okay. I'm going to spare you the fancy names. I know in psychology and those types of things, we like to put fancy names to stuff, right? You've seen them and heard them all along. I don't think we need to do that. This isn't about this. It's a lot more informal, and it's about something we all do. So let's just kind of keep it casual with that. But let me give you some of the things that might happen. So one partner says to the other partner, "You didn't text me back right away." All right. And the partner counters with, "You don't care about me at all." And it says, "You know what? I'm busy all day too, and I can't respond to every little thing that you do." Do you notice how that's harsh startup and it's criticism and it's defensiveness? So back to the horseman, back to the things that break people up, right? So, all right. So what do you do about that? Okay. So what you want to do with that is you want to put it in a way of a need and a wish. So, back to from this theory, you might say something like, let's see, what did I put down? When you didn't text back, I felt anxious. And I this is going to sound silly, but I wondered if I mattered to you. I wondered if I was important to you or if you were thinking about me. Can you reassure me that, hey, you're there, right? Now, again, somebody could respond like, I don't have to take care of all your needs. Don't do that. What you want to do is listen to the wish. I felt anxious and I wonder if I mattered. Well, a good response to that would be, I never want you to feel anxious, and you always matter to me, and you're always on my mind. What can I do in little ways to help you feel like I'm here, but also honor the fact that I get busy during the day and I have to tend to things like that too? So, see, now we have an opportunity to say, when this happened, it made me feel this, and what I need is that. And then respond in a kind way to try to help meet some of those needs. Now, if you notice, I gently asserted maybe some of the needs I have. I'm really busy. I get into meetings. I can't do it all the time. But boy, when I have an opportunity, let me just send you off a couple real quick I love yous. So very important. And from a Gottman perspective, that's what you're doing. It's watching the horseman, and it's having those bids for connection. Okay, so let's see. Let me give it the next one. So why don't you ever spend time with me? You know what? You're suffocating me. I can't believe I have to spend every second of the day with you, and boy, I just feel suffocated. All right, well, all right. So both of them have needs, right? But what we have to do is we have to balance that closeness again. Kind of talked about this in the earlier, with the sense of who I am and having those boundaries for me. So very, very important stuff. Now, if you're having a lot of trouble with that, that's a second conversation. I guess I do feel like I'm really insecure, especially when you're at work. I guess I do feel that way. Okay, well, I want to reassure you, but I also want to make sure that we're doing things that allow us to be close, but to do our job, right? Okay. So one of the things you might say if somebody's, why don't you ever spend time with me? A good comeback would be, hey, you know what? I'd like to spend some more time together. And I want to respect your need for space. But hey, do you think we could plan a date night this weekend so I can kind of recharge my batteries and really enjoy being with you? It really is nice to be with you. And I love those date nights. Well, honey, you're right. I've been really busy lately taking responsibility, but I would love to plan a date night. Let's sit down when we have a second today and plan for something. Okay. Right. So that's really, really good. So I hope you're looking at these. And if you're saying, hey, I do that, go back with your partner and look at these later and see if you guys got the answers right. And if you didn't, then try to employ the answer. All right. Let's see. Let's do another one. This is fun. You're either the most loving person or the coldest jerk. And the comeback is, I can't win no matter what I'm doing. I'm always wrong. See? So now you have the horseman, don't you? You have the criticism. You're either the most loving or the most jerkiest, right? And the other one is, I can't do anything. See the defensiveness? Well, I guess I just can't do anything right? So what I want you to do is think about it. Do you do that? If you do, the antidote for this is, right now I'm feeling really hurt, but I also know that you care deeply about me, right? You heard that. You're loving, but you're also a jerk. So instead of that, say, I'm feeling really hurt right now, but I also know you care about me deeply. I believe in that. But we talk about the both sides of that. How can we do that? Well, maybe the partner says, all right, well, give me examples of when you really feel like, I'm wonderful, because I love to hear that from you, but also let me know, not that I'm a jerk, because that would be a contempt horseman, but what you could do is to say, hey, when you do this, it really makes me feel distant from you. Or when you do that, it really makes me feel like you're indifferent to me. And that really freaks me out because of how important you are to me. Those types of things. Now, I want to say something about that. Some of these you might look at and say, oh, come on, Don. Oh my gosh, I don't talk like that. What you do is you look at these and you make it your own. You make it sound like you, because I don't want you to sound like me. I don't want you to sound like somebody else for that matter. I want you to sound like you. And if you do that right, it's going to come off genuine to your partner. It's not going to come off contrived or phony or like you're reading it out of a book. So make these your own. Don't just say it the way I do, but use that, right? But with this one from the Gottman perspective is it encourages that positive perspective, which is so important, because if we start to get into that negative perspective, it also affects our trust. So we can't have that, because if it happens enough, now it affects our fondness and admiration. Now we have less bids, which is what I'm talking about. And Yeah, that's not good. So you want to look at the antidotes, not just because it's the right thing to do. Strengthens the relationship house. Okay, that's really cool. Well, let's see. Look at another one. Let me check my time. All right. How about this one? You left the dishes. You did that to get back at me, right? And the comeback is, that's right. I'm always plotting against you. Right? Okay. Got to ask if you do some version of that. I don't know that you do it that way. I kind of exaggerating this because I want to make a point, but it might exaggerate for you all too, which if that's true, settle down. Remember, safety first, connection, settle down, reconnect, repair, all those things that we need to do for, high functioning relationships, right? Okay. So if somebody says you left the dishes, you didn't get that, you did that to get back at me, what you want to do is to pause to wonder about what your partner is thinking, what's on their mind. So you might say it this way, right? I noticed the dishes weren't done. Were you rushed this morning? Did something happen that, made you not be able to get to it? Help me understand. That help me understand is accepting influence. That's extremely important. The other thing too is it opens the room to where you have room between you both to discuss things. The minute I say you did that on purpose, I said it like it was reality, like there is no other choice, but you did it on purpose. This allows to say, I wonder what went wrong, right? Because I'll tell you, simple solutions are questioned. Simple solutions are questioned. You have to look at things. There could be 50 reasons why they didn't get the dishes done like you had hoped they would. And to take one of those and to make a conclusion of it, I wouldn't go there. I would make sure to be curious with my partner. Okay. So that's one of the things you want to do. Well, how come? I wonder what happened, right? The Gottman method would say you want to shift from that criticism, you didn't do the dishes, to building love maps. What does that mean? Well, remember, love maps are knowing your partner's internal world, what's important to them. And when you know that, hey, it sounds like getting those dishes done is really important to my partner. They're really nice. I'll tell you a love map I do is when I get up in the morning and my wife gets up in the morning, I always try to make the bed and get everything squared away in the bedroom. Just always try to do that. I don't always, but I notice that on occasions, my wife has said, hey, I really like the fact that, when I walk into the bedroom, it's kind of ordered and neat. It really is nice. Doesn't take me long to do it. It's a habit I started my freshman year of college because I needed that bed made so that I could use it as a staging area to put everything in my backpack. So really, really, really important to have those kind of rudimentary ways of doing things. But that's a love map. She really likes it. And I can sit here and probably tell you 50 things that she does that really makes my world a lot better. And I stop, think about it, and I'm humble and grateful about it. Okay. All right. So let's do a couple more. And if you really like these, I'll do part two because I've got a bunch of them. I actually put down like 8 for today, but I think I had 18 just to scratch them down. Let's see. Here we go. When you didn't invite me, it was just like my dad ignoring us when I was a kid. Right? Well, all right. But, this is a different age. And that sounds like it was really devastating when your dad didn't invite you. It sounds like it really hurt you. Should it hurt you? Should it not hurt you? Doesn't matter. It did. So we need to be attuned to that and say, wow, that really hurt you. Right? Right. But what you want to do is to repair that in a way that works. So it sounds like one of the ways to come back is, wow, when that happened, it sounded like that old wound about your what did I say, stepdad? What did I put down here? No, my dad ignoring you. Sounds like an old wound that got stirred up. Can wow, yeah, I guess it really did. Hey, can you reassure me that you wanted to include me and that you needed me? Wow. So that is a very different interchange than the first one, right? Because one hand is that recognition, that attunement. Wow, sounds like that old wound got stirred up. But the other one is, boy, when that happened, I felt hurt. Can you reassure me that you're not like that for me? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I can do that. So these are ways of just really feeling that love and connection. All right. So I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to go to the last break, and I'm going to give you some fun things we're all going to do this week, right? So last one. I guess everything's fine. Let's just drop it. Everything is not okay. You just like to brush me off. Okay, so try it again. I guess everything's fine now. Let's just drop it. No, we aren't done talking about this. This is not okay. You just brushed me off. All right. So, do you hear how there's no room on the couch? You just did this. That's reality. I'm telling you, that's the way it happened. Right? What they do is they felt dismissed. Right? But we went into the conclusion, see what you did to me, right? Okay. So how do you do that? Well, you contain it. You contain it. So if you find yourself doing that, always use gentle startup. Say it nice. Say it soft, just kind of like I'm talking now, right? And the other thing is containing this. So you might say something like, it's nervous for me to bring this up, but I got to tell you, it really matters to me. Can we take some time today? I don't know, sometime just for 10 minutes. And let's talk about what we were talking about. And in 10 minutes, we can reevaluate, kind of how we feel about this. Now, the reason I mentioned it that way is 10 minutes might go to 15, but 10 minutes for the other person might feel like a chewable bite. It feels like that's a little bit of time. And for people sometimes who like to withdraw, you want to make that in a way that they don't upregulate to the point where they want to run. And for the person who might feel that way and want to run, you want to say, hey, I'm feeling really upregulated right now. And you don't say upregulated because that's not how you talk. I did that on purpose. But you might say, hey, I'm really feeling uptight. I'm really feeling like I need to get away. That's fine to get away, but can we come back to it? Yeah, when I settle down, let's come back to it. Okay. But remember, the antidote for stonewalling is settle down, reconnect. Settle down and reconnect. So I tell you what, I'm looking at my time. We're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that fun thing we're going to do this week. And I think I'll do a part 2 on this. All right. See you shortly.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
All right. So we're into that last part where I give you that fun assignment we're all going to do. So this isn't just you guys. And it's not like if you don't hand in your homework, you get a tardy or something. That's not it at all. I do want to show something for you guys. I'm really excited about this. I got to put this up so I can see it. But I just want to show you this book. All right. Now, normally I'd have my engineer do this, but I didn't want to today. This is called Healing the Trauma of Infidelity. It's by a guy by the name of Bill Bunbury. Bill Bunbury is one of the first people in the Gottman Institute Master Trainer series, right? So I'm a Master Trainer, I'm an advanced trainer, but he's one of the originals. And he just wrote this book on healing the trauma of infidelity. It's on Amazon and you can get it there. And I highly recommend it. It's an easy read. And it talks about what do we do when we have this impossible thing in front of us is healing infidelity. So he's going to be on next week. He's going to talk about this book. I'm going to ask him a lot of real cool questions after, I've really studied it. But I want to invite you all next week to come hear him talk. We know, in couples work, I think 22 to 30% of the time, if I'm just remembering that right, people come into couples work because of an infidelity. It's a very prevalent problem. And people sometimes say, can we get over this? Can we heal from it? Yeah, you can, most of the time. Can't say every time, but definitely we have some really good information and some really good research on how to help. In fact, the Gottman Institute, when I train people, we have a whole arm on how to do that, right? It's called the Attune, and Attachment Model. And we know how to do this. We are trained in it, and we have good experiences of helping people. Makes us energized because it's nice to be able to take something that's really, really bad for a couple and help them get back on the track. So we're going to do that next week. Okay, so back to our fun thing we're going to do this week. And I'm going to tell you again, I got this from Blue's Clues. One of the things Blue's Clues does is they show the same show every day for a week, or at least they used to. And what happens is it took kids a while to get it, but once they got it down, they had it. We're going to do the same thing. Go back to my old episodes, watch this, slow it down, learn it. Really good. I notice that sometimes when people are learning languages, what they do is they go watch a show over and over again, and they begin to watch patterns of how people communicate. Right. So that's a trick that you can use too if you're trying to learn like French or Portuguese or something. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to do this. Go home with your partner and go look at it and see if you do this. So like I said, right when I give the problem, stop it and say, do we do that? And maybe you'll say, no, we never do that. Okay, well, let's see what he has to say. But look at how we're changing the way we communicate. Very important. So what I want you to do is remember safety first, right? We always do that. The next thing is tune into this show with your partner. And when I start talking about the pitfalls in segment 3, or maybe even the phone mail or the mailbox section, once I do that, stop it and ask, do we do that? And then listen to my conclusion on that. So we're going to do that, at least segment 3, and ask yourself, is this some of the stuff we do? You can even ask yourself, well, maybe not, but we do this, we do that, and then not next week, but the week after, we'll do more pitfalls, okay? So the next thing I want to do is, again, before I give the antidote, go to the Gottman Reinforcer and go to when you do this, it makes me feel this. What I need instead is this. What do you think? Okay. But try to guess first. Don't just go right into it. Say, do we do this? Have we ever done that? What happened when we did that? Do you remember if we got into a big fight? What did it look like? How did we do this? Do we do these bad habits? Or do we do the right way, right? And again, if you really do flub it up, make sure you go back and gently repair when you settle down. And then have a discussion about that and move forward and just forget about that argument and do better next time, okay? So the next thing is, when it comes up during the week, notice it again. So, okay, so we went through all of these. When something comes up, say, wait a minute, was this one of those ones Don talked about? Maybe you wrote it down. Say, let's go back and look at it. Okay, well, all right, what are we supposed to do instead? Well, let's try that. Did you feel different? Did you feel better? Does this feel more soothing? Or did this feel like you're closer to me? And slow that down. You notice just the energy I had on the air just a moment ago. Da, 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 da. No, let's talk about it in a gentle, caring way. That's attunement. That's attunement. Let's see, I got a minute. I can tell you that. A, awareness of one another's emotions. Turn towards, right? Turn towards. Tolerate the fact we're all human. So if they're doing something wrong, chances are you do it too. Understand before you seek to fix. Always non-defensive responding. You can explain something, but don't get huffy about it, right? And then the last one is empathy. I don't know how you're experiencing this, but I want to listen and try to understand. That's accepting influence. So this is what I want you to do. Go back, look at the directions, have fun with this, write me, tell me what you think of it. And like I said, I'll keep using your comments as a way to add new content to future shows. Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Don Allen. This is all about relationships. Look, working towards loving marriage and lasting relationships. And we will catch you next week with Dr. Bunbury. We're going to talk about infidelity. Take care, and I'll talk to you all then.